much land does a man need? Leo Tolstoy. The story How Much Land Does a Man Need? Consists of 9 units, contains separate ideas with full of moral teaching. It has explained author's religious experience. It deals with moral problems in the country life because of spiritual crisis created by human greed and temptation. It suggests us that human desire has no limitation. Men desire to take possession of more than they need in benefits of themselves. Thus greed has no specific boundaries that ultimately leads life to death. The protagonist of the story is a peasant named Payam, who at the beginning can be heard complaining that he does not own enough land to satisfy him. He states that if I had plenty of land, I shouldn't fear the devil himself. Unbeknownst to him, Satan is present sitting behind the stove and listening. A short amount of time later, a landlady in the village decides to sell her E3 estate, and the peasants of the village buy as much of that land as they can. Payam himself purchases some land, and by working off the extra land is able to repay his debts and live a more comfortable life. However, Payam then becomes very possessive of his land, and this causes arguments with his neighbors. Threats to Payam his building began to uttered. Later, he moves to a larger area of land at another commune. Here we can grow even more crops and amass a small fortune, but he has to grow the crops on rented land, which irritates him. Finally, he is introduced to the Bashkirs, and is told that they are simple-minded people who own a large amount of land. Payam goes to them to take as much of their land for as low a price as he can negotiate. Their offer is very unusual. For a sum of 1,000 rubles, Payam can walk around average as much as he wants. Starting at daybreak, marking his route with a spade along the way. If he reaches his starting point by sunset that day, the entire area of land his route encloses will be his, but if he does not reach to starting point he will lose his money and receive no land. He is delighted as he believes that he can cover a great distance and he's chanced upon the bargain of a lifetime. That night Payam experiences a surreal dream in which he sees himself lying dead by the feet of a devil, who is laughing. He stays out as late as possible, marking out land until just before the sun sets. Toward the end, he realizes he is far from the starting point and runs back as fast as he can to the waiting Bashkirs. He finally arrives at the starting point just as the sun sets. The Bashkirs cheer his good fortune, but exhausted from the run, Payam drops dead. His servant buries him in an ordinary grave only 6 feet long, thus ironically answering the question posed in the title.